That's good. Good morning, my magnificent friends. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. Welcome to another episode of Tea with Sue. This is episode number 50. Wow, I don't think when I started this at the beginning of the year that I thought we'd get this far, but here we are. Oh my. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a new podcast for me, on YouTube called Good News Exchange. No, not Good News Exchange, Goodness Exchange, Goodness Exchange. And they were interviewing a professor by the name of David Cooper-Ryder. His topic and his passion in the world is all about appreciative inquiry. Well, I wasn't too sure what that was, so I was quite interested to hear what he had to say. So think about a time when you analyze a challenge or a difficulty, a problem that you're immersed in, whether it's personal, whether it's in business, doesn't really matter what it is. Often when we go through the analysis, we focus on, okay, what's the problem here? What is really going on? And then we go through chapter and verse, line by line about, all right, this is in the way, this is roadblocking us, we can't move forward because of this, the conditions are thus, and so on. And then, of course, we attempt to solve the problem. Well, what David Cooper-Ryder suggests is that instead you start from a different vantage point. You start with the focus of something he calls appreciative inquiry. Now, when you start from that focus, then you really start from what's great, what's working, what do we want to hold on to? What's in line with the way we think, the way we believe, the way we respond, all of those different kinds of questions. In fact, the ideal. So it's focusing on more what you want than what you don't want. It's kind of like thinking of, if I said to you, okay, what's your version of heaven on earth? And you started by saying, well, I know what I don't want. And then you start describing to me what hell on earth is like. Well, guess what? What we focus on expands. So if all you can think about is what you don't want, you might be setting yourself up for a period of getting more of all of the things that you don't want. So let's look at flipping this around. Many years ago, I was given an exercise, and I know I've talked about this exercise before, and maybe even on Tea with Sue. It's worth talking about again. This exercise was for me to make a list numbered 1 to 100, and then to start at number 1 and write down a good point about myself, something that I felt was a skill or a talent or a characteristic, could even be a physical feature or attribute that I felt was strong, that was in my favor, that I could acknowledge and say, yeah, that's good about me. And they assured me when I was given this exercise that I had way more than 100, that I had more than 300, but they felt that if I got to 100, I would be doing well. Well, I struggled. I could come up with a few, maybe the top 5 or the top 10. And then after that, I kind of got stuck. And they had encouraged me, the people that gave me this information said, look, you're going to get stuck. And when you get stuck, ask somebody, get feedback from somebody else to help you move beyond wherever you're stuck. And I was stuck at like number 27, for example, and I'm going, oh. So then I talk to a trusted friend or relative and say, I'm doing this exercise, and can you give me a good point about myself? Like, well, what do you notice that's good about me or great about me or whatever? Well, much to my surprise, they'd not only give me one, in lots of cases, they'd give me two or even more. And I'm going, oh, okay. And so then that would kind of spur me on so that I would write some more. It took me a while to get my 100, but I persevered. I persevered to make sure I got my 100. And when I got to 100, I had a different perspective about myself. I thought, oh, because of course, when we're young, especially when we start school, what is it that they often focus on in the parent-teacher interview? Oh, well, little Susie's doing fine here, here, and here. I was really good at English and the arts. I wasn't good at math, and I kind of sucked at science. And so what was the focus? Oh, well, she has to be better on all these other things. Little did they know that my strength with writing would result in me authoring and publishing books. And so did I need my physics? Did I need my advanced calculus? Nope. Don't even remember the foggiest thing about all of that. And yet I've been able to thrive despite my quotes weaknesses. So we all have areas that we feel are not that strong. And if I said, okay, make a list of 100 of your deficiencies, you could probably do it in 5 minutes flat, because we know them so well, or we're told them so often, or whatever. Well, is that really serving us? So instead, what I'm recommending is that we start with this appreciative inquiry and say, all right, what is it that I really love about me? What is it that I love about what I do, how I'm managing my life, how I'm interacting with other people? Now, we know that change is constant. It smacks us in the face lots of times, whether we want it to or not, and often forces us to move from here over to here. It's not that comfortable, granted, but it can be more comfortable if you say, all right, here's this change that's required. So what is it that I already have that I want to take along with me in light of this change? What is it that I won't leave behind? So, and we do this all the time when we're moving households, don't we? We look at our possessions and we say, okay, that's a keeper, that's going. I'm giving this away. I absolutely am taking that. So when I moved to Winnipeg a couple of years ago, I had a question in my mind: do I take the TV or do I take my grandmother's good china? Well, guess what? My grandmother's good china, which is almost 100 years old now, won out. And sure enough, when I got to Winnipeg, somebody had a TV that they were happy to part with. So I didn't have to move and worry about breaking the screen or whatever. So today I want you to focus on this whole idea of what you can appreciate in your life right now, regardless of what's not working, because we all have things that aren't working quite as well as we would like. And it doesn't mean that certainly we have the capacity to fix that, to make that different, make that better. But what I'm suggesting is, if we are mired in what's not working, then we're going to have a challenge to resolve or solve any of that if we don't also bring to the table, and maybe bring to the table first, what our strengths are. What are the attributes or the characteristics that are going to serve us the most or are already serving us the most. So if we take so here's an example. I discovered or was able to label when I was going through cancer. I was able to label or identify 4 power tools that I had at my disposal that I could use to help me on that journey, to support me, to carry me through. And the power tools, which every one of us has inherent in us: hope, faith, courage, and determination. Those 4 power tools, which you can't exactly measure, but are there nonetheless, can take us from whatever adversity we're mired in through to rising above all of that. So if I start from that perspective with any particular challenge that I have and say, all right, what's my level of faith in my ability to move forward, in my ability to find the right person who has the answer for this dilemma, to dig myself out of this hole that I find myself in at the moment? What's my level of faith, and how hopeful am I of an outcome? Now, it helps for me that I'm an extremely optimistic person, so my level of hope is usually pretty high. Then, of course, when we look at courage, well, there's some things we're flat out scared to tackle. No question of that. But if you've used your courage in any one instance in your life, you can use it for whatever's facing you now. So, and I think I've said before that I define courage as small acts of bravery. Well, I don't know if I can do the whole thing, but I can do this much. Oh, I did that. Oh, good, that worked. Well, what if I do this much? And then we just gradually kind of exercise that bravery model to the point where it all adds up to this bowl of courage. And we go, wow, I didn't think I could get through that, but I did. Well, that's even more energy that you can take to the next level. So, and then of course, the determination. I lots of people from my childhood would probably say, oh, Sue was very stubborn. Well, I like to call it determination. Well, stubborn to me is kind of a mean word. But stubbornness, determination, whatever you want to call it, when the going gets tough, I get more and more determined to rise above whatever challenge I'm having and to find some level of success with it. Will I always be as successful as I wanted? Maybe I've set the bar way up here and I managed to get to here, but that was better than being way down here. So it's all relative, right? And for me, rising to that success when I was way down there was a big achievement, a big accomplishment, and it gives me more energy and more hope that I can take the next step and then achieve that next level, if that can be. Because sometimes we set the bar way too high and our expectations are just over the top. Well, there's nothing wrong with setting high expectations as long as we recognize that sometimes we're not quite wired well enough to achieve that, but we could get here, which is still a big step from wherever we were before. So this week, I really want you to focus on the idea of appreciative inquiry. As a parent, there are times when I think back and wish I had been more focused on my child's superpowers, what it is they were the most strong in, and not fuss so much about what they struggled with, because what we struggle with, we can figure out a way around lots of times. Then even, Helen Keller, who was deaf and blind, managed to have an incredibly successful life. She found the people that she needed in her life to support her through, and ended up being able to speak and write and be a public figure, basically, regardless of what it was that held her down. Well, I guess if she can do it, and there's lots of others who are dealing with far more challenges than and what we would label weaknesses than we personally do, if they can do it, we can do it too. So we're all part and parcel of the same human family who are wired magnificently. You know you are more than you often believe about yourself. You are more than that. And isn't it time that you identified that? So if you're up for the challenge, I encourage you to write your list, 100 things that you love about yourself, that you feel is a good point or an attribute or a characteristic, and include everything. Doesn't matter if you say, well, I make a mean chocolate chip cookie. Well, check, that's a good point. There's lots of people can't even boil water, never mind put a recipe together. So, and the same thing professionally. What are you like at work? What do you bring to the table? If you are the friendliest person on staff, check. So get to 100, and I think you'll find, as I did, that it opens up a feeling about yourself that begins to, in just a small way, show you how magnificent you really are. You might be surprised that you have all those 100 attributes, and I guarantee you, you have more than that. You have more than 100. So of course, if you get to 100 and that was easy for you, we'll carry on to 200 and keep working on it. Keep asking, what do you think is great about me? And go from there. I wish you the most marvelous weekend. Have a magnificent weekend. It's cold here in Edmonton. I think I woke up to -31. So it's definitely winter with lots of snow. Regardless, the sun is shining. I feel kind of perky, and maybe I'll put my snowshoes on and go out for a little stroll. If you like Tea with Sue, please subscribe to my channel, and you can always find all the rest of the episodes listed on my free app, The Magnificence Mentor. In the meantime, take good care, my magnificent friends, and think about appreciative inquiry. See you next time.